Hello students, welcome to our online platform. Myself Engineer PP sir, your physics mentor. Students, today we are going to talk about our new topic which is atomic structure. So in modern physics today we are going to talk about atomic structure. So let us start with atomic structure. So in atomic structure we are going to discuss about few atomic models and then we will talk about few pattern of questions based on it. So let us talk about important atomic models. First one is Thomson's model. First one is Thomson's model. So scientist Thomson predicted a model for atom and he gave first idea regarding the structure of atom. According to this model, an atom is a solid sphere. According to J.J. Thomson's model, he considered that it is a solid sphere in which entirely positively charged is there and its mass is uniformly distributed. So it is considered to be a solid sphere in which positive charge is uniformly distributed and electrons are placed in between this positive charge like seeds in a watermelon. So like they are embedded like seeds in watermelon. So this is the brief introduction of J.J. Thomson's model. So basic thing is here that he considered it a solid sphere. He considered it as solid sphere in which mass is uniformly distributed and electrons are embedded between positive charge in such a way like seeds in a watermelon. Then what is the success and failure for this model? So here Thomson explained successfully the phenomena of thermionic emission, photoelectric emission and ionization. So based on Thomson's model, thermionic emission, photoelectric emission and ionization phenomena can be explained easily, but this model was failed to explain scattering of alpha particles and it cannot explain the origin of spectral lines observed in the spectrum of hydrogen and other atoms. So in brief we can say that it was not able to explain spectrum of hydrogen atom. Then Rutherford came into picture. So according to Rutherford performed an experiment in which he shows scattering of alpha particles by extremely thin gold foil. So he scattered alpha particles on a very small or very thin gold foil and he took following observations from this experiment. According to Rutherford, most of the alpha particles pass through the foil straight away undeflected. It means most of the alpha particles went through that through that gold foil without scattering or without deviation. Some of them are deflected through small angles. There were small deflections in some of them. Few alpha particles are deflected through the angle more than 90 degree. So very few, almost 1 in 1000. A few alpha particles returned back, means they returned back on the same path deflected by angle of 180 degree and distance of closest approach. So we will discuss distance of closest approach here. See, this is the general concept. So according to Rutherford, number of scattered particles are n inversely proportional to sine to the power 4 theta by 2, and this is the graphical relation. If theta increases then number of scattered particles decreases. So this is the relation. Now see, distance of closest approach. So distance of closest approach is minimum distance from the nuclei, minimum distance from the nuclei up to which the alpha particle approach, So this is known as the distance of closest approach. So we can clearly see, let us say that this is the center of gold foil and here alpha particle is approaching towards it. So the minimum distance from the nuclei to which the alpha particle approach. So this is the distance. Let us say this distance is r naught. So r naught can be calculated by using the relation E is equal to kz E square upon R naught. So you can clearly see from here E is equal to kz E square upon R naught. E is here kinetic energy, which is half mv square. So what we can say, we can use here concept of energy conservation, and using this relation we can say that here this is the potential energy. So potential energy is k q1 q2 upon R naught. So k q1, let us say we are talking about nuclei of gold. So let us say its charge is Ze. So kze into E. So kze square upon R naught is equal to half mv square. So this is the concept of energy conservation, and from here we can find value of R naught, which is distance of closest approach. Distance of closest approach. Now see, if T, another thing, impact parameter. So what is impact parameter? So the perpendicular distance of the velocity vector. So impact parameter is perpendicular distance of velocity vector of alpha particle from the center of nuclei when it is far away from the nuclei. So impact parameter is simply, we can say, perpendicular distance of velocity vector from center of nuclei when it is far away. So it is, we can directly say that B is proportional to cot theta by 2. This impact parameter B is proportional to cot theta by 2. So questions are asked based on distance of closest approach and this impact parameter in our NEET and JEE sections. Now see, if T is the thickness of foil and N is number of alpha particles scattered in a particular direction, then theta is constant. So it can be seen that N upon T means number of alpha particle scattered in unit time. N upon T is always constant. So simple thing is that if T is the thickness of foil and N is number of alpha particles, then we can say that number of alpha particles scattered through unit thickness are always constant. So N1 upon N2 is equal to T1 upon T2. It means number of alpha particles scattered is directly proportional to thickness of the foil. After Rutherford's scattering experiment, he performed or he explained his model, and according to Rutherford's atomic model, it was cleared that it is a hollow sphere. It is a hollow sphere. Mass is concentrated at a particular place which is known as nuclei. Whole mass is concentrated at a single place and most of the part is hollow. It was explained by Rutherford, and he also explained the size of atom and size of nuclei. So according to him, nuclei is positively charged and its size is almost 10 to the power minus 15 meter. It means you can say that it is in order of Fermi. So nuclei is in size of Fermi, while the size of this atom is in order of angstrom, almost 1 angstrom. So it is almost 1 angstrom, or you can say 10 to the power minus 10 meter. So 1 angstrom is the size of atom and 1 Fermi or 10 to the power minus 15 meter is the size of nuclei. So this is the brief introduction about Rutherford's model. Now what are the drawbacks of this model and what are some key facts? So first is stability. So in his experiment, when Rutherford explained this alpha particle scattering experiment and then he explained his model, then he couldn't explain stability of atom. So because according to classical theory, an accelerated charged particle, when a charged particle is accelerated, then it should continuously radiate the energy. So it is based on classical theory that it should continuously radiate energy. Thus an accelerated charged particle, so here we are talking about electron. So here moving electron in circular path and the nuclei should also radiate some energy. Thus gradually radius of the circular path should decrease and finally it should fall into the nuclei. It should fall into the nuclei due to radiation of energy. So this way he couldn't explain the stability. According to this model, the spectrum of atom must be continuous. So according to Rutherford, spectrum of hydrogen should be continuous, but it is a line spectrum. Its spectrum is linear spectrum. Then next drawback is it did not explain the distribution of electrons outside the nuclei. So he couldn't explain about the distribution of electrons outside the nuclei. Then next was Niels Bohr, who explained and he corrected some drawbacks based on Rutherford's model and Thomson's model. Bohr proposed a model for hydrogen atom, which is also applicable for some lighter atoms. So basically, Bohr's model is applicable for hydrogen-like atoms. For hydrogen-like atoms means atoms of lighter atomic number, hydrogen-like atoms, in which single electron revolves. Hydrogen-like atoms means only one electron is present. The electron can revolve only in, so now see, Bohr explained his model in three postulates. So this model is based on following postulates. First one is, according to Bohr, electrons revolve only in those orbits in which angular momentum is multiple integral of h upon 2 pi. It means it should be multiple integral of h upon 2 pi. So in only those orbits electron revolves. So we can say that L is equal to nh upon 2 pi. Here n is 1, 2, 3 and so on. It is multiple integral. Or we can say this L is angular momentum and angular momentum is equal to mvr. So mvr is equal to nh upon 2 pi. So this was the one postulate of Bohr's model. Then second, the radiation of energy occurs. So second one is related to energy. So according to second postulate, when any electron jumps from one orbit to another orbit, then it radiates some energy. So according to this postulate, let us say that an electron is jumping from E2 level to E1. In this situation, some energy is absorbed. And this energy is equal to energy of photon, h nu. Similarly, here we can say that when electron jumps from E1 to E2, then energy is emitted, and in this situation also this energy difference is equal to energy of photon. So we can say that E1 minus E2 is equal to h nu in both the situations. So we can clearly see that when electrons jumps from higher energy orbits to lower energy orbits, then energy is emitted, and when electrons jumps from lower energy orbit to higher energy orbit, then it has to absorb some amount of energy. Now see, according to Bohr's theory, the momentum of electron revolving in second orbit of hydrogen atom will be h upon pi. So this can be calculated. Momentum is h upon pi for electron revolving in second orbit, because it is nh upon 2 pi. For an electron in nth orbit of hydrogen atom in Bohr model, circumference of orbit, so circumference of orbit is n lambda, where lambda is de Broglie wavelength. So we will talk about it in detail later on. Now see, Bohr's orbits for hydrogen and hydrogen-like atoms. So here we talked about two postulates. Third postulate is that whenever electron revolve in a circular path, then required centripetal force is provided by electrostatic force. So this is the nuclei, which is positively charged, its charge is plus Ze. Electron is revolving, which is negatively charged, and let us say radius of this orbit is r. Then we can say that electrostatic force, which is of attraction nature, so it is equal to, so electrostatic force is kz e square upon r square, which is equal to mv square upon r, means centripetal force. So this electrostatic force provides required centripetal force during its circular motion. So this is the relation 1, this is the relation from another postulate. So from here we can calculate radius of orbit in which electron is revolving. So if we talk about radius, then it is Rn is equal to 0.529, which is almost taken as 0.53 into n square upon z angstrom. So here we can clearly see that radius of orbit is directly proportional to n square and inversely proportional to z. So generally we talk about hydrogen, so we can say that for hydrogen z is equal to 1 and n is number of orbits, so we can easily calculate its radius in any orbit. If we talk about first orbit, then its radius is 0.53 angstrom. Similarly, if we talk about speed of electron, then speed of electron in nth orbit is Vn is equal to 2.2 into 10 to the power 6 into z upon n meter per second. So this is the speed of electron revolving in nth orbit. So we can clearly see here again that speed of electron is inversely proportional to number of orbit. It means as we move in as electron moves in higher orbits, then its speed decreases. Now if we give the relation of this velocity in terms of speed of light, then it is c upon 137 into z upon n meter per second. So this is the also speed of electron in nth orbit in terms of speed of light in vacuum. The ratio of speed of an electron in ground state in Bohr's first orbit of hydrogen and velocity of light in air is equal to 1 upon 137. So here we can say that it is equal to 1 upon 137 in first orbit. Now see some other quantities. What are some other quantities related to this Bohr's relation? So angular speed is omega, so it can be calculated by using relation omega is equal to v upon r. So in nth orbit vn upon rn. So here we can say that omega n is directly proportional to z square upon and inversely proportional to n cube. Similarly frequency, so frequency can be calculated by using relation omega is equal to 2 pi nu. So nu is equal to omega upon 2 pi. Again we can say that frequency is also proportional to z square and inversely proportional to n cube. Similarly, if we talk about time period, then in time period it's proportional to n cube and inversely proportional to z square. In other words, you can say it is reciprocal of frequency. Then angular momentum. So angular momentum is, as we know, that L is equal to nh upon 2 pi. It means L is proportional to n. It is simply proportional to n. Corresponding current. So corresponding current, it is I n is equal to E upon T n, you can say, or you can say that it is E into nu n. So current is proportional to z square and inversely proportional to n cube. So this is the relation for current. Similarly, magnetic moment. So magnetic moment is I into A. So from here we can say that I and A is area, which is pi r square. So I into r square. From here we can say that I is proportional to z square and r is proportional to 1 upon z square, and it is n cube, and here it is n. So mn is proportional to n. Then magnetic field. So magnetic field is mu naught I upon 2r. So we can again calculate here, which is z cube, directly proportional to z cube and inversely proportional to n to the power 5. So this is the brief introduction. Now let us talk about energy. So here energy is stored in form of potential energy, in form of kinetic energy, and then we will talk about total energy. So if we talk about potential energy, then an electron possesses some potential energy because it is found in the field of nuclear potential energy of electron in nth orbit. So we can calculate it by using the relation k q1 q2 upon r. So in nth orbit, its potential energy is minus kZe square upon Rn. Similarly, if we talk about kinetic energy, then kinetic energy is K is equal to half m Vn square. And if we place value of Vn, then it is kZe square upon 2Rn. So this is the relation for kinetic energy. From here, if we compare potential energy and kinetic energy, then we can clearly see that kinetic energy is half of magnitude of potential energy. It means it is half of magnitude of potential energy, U upon 2, magnitude of U upon 2. Similarly, if we talk about total energy, then total energy is sum of kinetic energy plus potential energy. So which is equal to, here total energy is equal to E is equal to minus K ZE square upon 2Rn. So what we can say that K is equal to mod of E and it is equal to mod of U upon 2. So this is the general relation in kinetic energy, total energy and potential energy. If we talk about energy in nth orbit, then this energy is minus 13.6 into Z square upon N square electron volt. So this is the energy in electron volt. En is equal to minus 13.6 into Z square upon N square electron volt. So this is the energy of electron in nth orbit. Now see some key facts. Each Bohr orbit has a definite energy. So whenever we talk about a particular orbit, then we can clearly see from here that each orbit has some definite energy. For hydrogen atom, Z is equal to 1. So we can say that it is minus 13.6 upon N square electron volt. The state with N is equal to 1 has the lowest energy. So if we talk about N is equal to 1 means in first orbit. So in first orbit energy is least, which is equal to minus 13.6. For hydrogen atom it is E1 is equal to minus 13.6 electron volt in first orbit, which is most negative or you can say lowest. Similarly RCH. So see, this RCH is known as Rydberg energy. It is known as Rydberg energy. And it is almost equal to 31.6 electron volt. RCH is equal to 31.6 electron volt. And this is the relation which I have told you earlier. Now see ionization energy and potential. So if we talk about ionization energy, then what is ionization energy? The energy required to ionize an atom. Ionization energy is what? The energy required to ionize an atom is known as ionization energy. It is the energy required to make the electron jump from present orbit to infinite orbit. So when will any atom be ionized? When it jumps from its present orbit to infinite orbit. In that situation, energy is known as ionization energy. So again we can say that E ionization is equal to, we can say, present orbit to infinite. So we can say that it is E infinity minus En. So from here if we calculate its value, then it is 13.6 electron volt. 13.6 electron volt. So this is the minimum energy required for ground state atom. The potential through which an electron need to be accelerated. So what is the potential here? So ionization potential is the amount of potential required to accelerate an electron so that it acquires energy equal to ionization energy. So it is the amount of potential given to an electron so that it gets accelerated and it acquires the energy equal to ionization energy. So V is equal to E upon E, small e, excitation energy. Then what is excitation energy and excitation potential? So excitation energy is, it is the amount of energy supplied from external source, and it jumps to higher energy level. Clear? So what is excitation energy? So it is the energy supplied to an electron so that it can jump to higher energy level, from low energy level to higher energy level. So this much amount of energy is known as excitation energy. And excitation potential, so excitation potential is potential given to electron so that it can acquire the energy equal to excitation energy. So this is the general concept of excitation energy and potential and ionization energy and potential. Then we talk about binding energy. So binding energy of a system is required as energy released or energy required to form a nuclei. So in simple words, we can say that binding energy of a system is defined as energy released when its constituents are brought from infinity to form the system. So it can be defined in two ways. One, energy required to form a system from its constituents, and in other words we can say that it is the energy required to form it is energy required or energy released by a system to when it is broken into its components. It may also be defined as energy needed to separate its constituents to large distances. So as I told you earlier, in both ways we can define energy released when its constituents combine together to form a system, and it is the energy required, energy needed to separate the constituents at large distances. If an electron and proton are initially at rest and brought from large distance to form a hydrogen atom, then 13.6 electron volt energy will be released. The binding energy of a hydrogen atom is therefore 13.6 electron volt. So this is the general concept of binding energy. For hydrogen atom, principal quantum number, so principal quantum number can be calculated by this relation, n is equal to root of 13.6 upon binding energy. Now see energy level diagram. So energy level diagrams are the diagrammatic description of energy of electrons in different orbits. So this is the general concept. In hydrogen atom, excitation energy to excite electron from ground state to first excited state. So first excited state means second orbit. So what is the concept of excitation? Let us see. Let us say this is n is equal to 1, this is n is equal to 2, n is equal to 3, and so on. These different energy levels are there. So this n is equal to 1 is known as ground state. This n is equal to 2 is known as first excited state. First excited state. N is equal to 3, second excited state, and so on. So this is the concept of excitation. So whenever you are asked to calculate energy required to excite an electron, so you can easily calculate by using the relation. So like here it is given, in hydrogen atom, excitation energy to excite electron from ground state to first excited state. So first excited state means second orbit. So here it is minus 13.6 in ground state and minus 3.4 in second orbit. So total energy is 10.2 electron volt. And from ground state to second excited state, so from ground state to second excited state, so second excited state means third orbit, so it is minus 1.51 electron volt. So this can be calculated by using the relation. Transition of electron. Transition of electron means whenever any electron transits from higher energy level to lower energy levels, then it will emit or it will radiate photon of frequency nu. It means it is based on postulate of Bohr, where we have discussed that, let us say this is the higher energy level and electron is transited from lower energy state, then this energy released is in form of energy of photon h nu. Then energy of emitted radiation. So again it is energy of emitted radiation is del E is equal to E2 minus E1. So it is del E is equal to 13.6 Z square into 1 upon N1 square minus 1 upon N2 square. It can be calculated by using this relation. Now frequency and wave number. So now questions are asked based on frequency of emitted radiation and wave number, or you can say wavelength. So wave number is known as 1 upon lambda. So 1 upon lambda is wave number and lambda is wavelength. So this is the general concept. If we talk about wave number, then 1 upon lambda is equal to Rz square into 1 upon n1 square minus 1 upon n2 square. It can be calculated by using this relation here, del E. If we talk about frequency, then del E is equal to, it is equal to h nu. It is equal to h nu. So nu can be calculated by using this relation, del E upon h. Del E upon h, del E is here, it is this value. So we can easily calculate wave number, wavelength and frequency. Then number of spectral lines. So what are number of spectral lines if we talk about? So if an electron jumps from higher energy orbit to lower energy orbit, it emits radiations with various spectral lines. So these are different spectral lines. If electron falls from orbit n2 to n1, then number of spectral lines emitted is given by n2 minus n1 plus 1 into n2 minus n1 upon 2. This is the total number of spectral lines emitted. N2, when electron transits or electron falls from n2 to n1, then total number of spectral lines are n2 minus n1 plus 1 into n2 minus n1 upon 2. If electron falls from nth orbit to ground state, so in this situation n2 is equal to n and n1 is equal to 1. So we can say that number of spectral lines are n into n minus 1 upon 2 when electron falls from nth orbit to ground state. Absorption spectrum is obtained only for transition from lowest energy level to higher energy levels. Hence the number of absorption spectral lines will be n minus 1. So here absorption will only be there only and only for transition from lowest energy level, to higher levels. Lowest energy level is first ground state. So here it will be n minus 1. Recoiling of an atom. So recoiling is equal to momentum of photon. Recoiling is equal to momentum of photon. So it is h upon lambda, and we can say 1 upon lambda is Rz square into 1 upon n1 square minus 1 upon n2 square. So we can calculate easily from here. Also recoil energy. So recoil energy is E is equal to P square upon 2m. So it can be calculated again using this relation. Now drawbacks of Bohr's model. So what are the drawbacks of Bohr's model? First is it is valid for hydrogen like atoms, means it is valid for atoms having single electron. Second is orbits were taken as circular, but according to Sommerfeld they are elliptical. According to Sommerfeld's theory, it was explained that these orbits in which electrons revolve around nuclei are elliptical, while Bohr considered them circular. Intensity of spectral lines. So Bohr model could not explain intensity of spectral lines. He explained that spectral lines are linear, or we can say that spectrum of hydrogen is line spectrum, but it could not explain their intensity. Nuclei was taken as stationary, but it also rotates on its axis. So here Bohr considered that nuclei is stationary, but it rotates on its own axis. It could not explain the minute structure in spectral lines. This does not explain Zeeman effect and Stark effect. So what is Zeeman effect? Splitting of spectral lines in magnetic field, and Stark effect is splitting of electric field lines. Splitting on electric field lines. Clear? So these are some drawbacks. Next, this does not explain the doublets in the spectrum of some of atoms like sodium. So he could not explain doublets also. So these are some drawbacks based on Bohr's model. Now see hydrogen spectrum and spectral lines. So what are these spectral lines? The spectral lines arising from transition of electron forms a spectra series. Forms a spectra series. So let us see what is this series. So this is that series. These series are generally Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, Brackett, Pfund. Lyman, when electron transits from first orbit to higher orbits. Balmer, when it transits from second orbit. See, this is first, so when it transits from first orbit, this is the first orbit, so from higher orbit to first orbit, higher orbit to first orbit, then Lyman series. From higher orbit to second orbit, then it is Balmer series. Then from higher orbit to third orbit, then it is Paschen, then Brackett, then Pfund. So these are different spectral series which are based on transition of electron. So it can be explained from here. Now see, what are some key points here? First line of spectral is called first member. For this line, wavelength is maximum. So first line is first member, which is maximum, which is of maximum wavelength. Last line means when n2 is infinite. So whenever we talk about, let us talk, have an example. I am talking about Balmer series. So in Balmer series, electrons transit from higher orbits to second. So these higher orbits, let us say n1 is 2. Electrons should transit in second from n2 is equal to third to infinite. Third to infinite. So when this electron transits from third to second, then wavelength is maximum. It is given here. First line of series is called first member. So when it transits from third to second orbit, then wavelength is maximum. And when the last line of series, then last line is known as series limit. For this line, wavelength is minimum. It means when electron transits from infinite to second orbit, then minimum wavelength is acquired in Balmer series. Now see, so this is a table given for different series. You have to simply keep in mind. And what is that? If we talk about Lyman series, then in Lyman series, it is found to be in UV region. It is found to be in UV region. If we talk about Balmer series, then its some portion is in UV region and some portion is in visible region. Then if we talk about Paschen, Brackett and Pfund, Paschen, Brackett and Pfund, then all these three series are found to be in infrared region. So this is a general standard here which you have to keep in mind. So if we talk about Lyman series, then it is found to be in UV region, ultraviolet region. If we talk about Balmer series, then some portion of Balmer series is found to be in UV region and some portion in visible region. Then Paschen, Brackett and Pfund, all these three series are found to be in infrared region. So this is the general introduction. Now see quantum numbers. So if we talk about quantum number, then an atom contains large number of cells and subcells. These are distinguished from one another on the basis of their size, shape and orientation in space. So different cells, an atom contains different number of cells, large number of cells, subcells, and they are distinguished from each other based on their size, shape and orientation. The parameters are expressed in terms of different numbers called quantum number. So they are expressed in terms of quantum number. So quantum numbers may be defined as a set of 4 numbers with the help of which we can get complete information about all the electrons in an atom. So what is this principal quantum number? So principal quantum number is, this quantum number determines the main energy level or shell energy level, we can say, in which the electron is present. So it is En is inversely proportional to 1 upon n square and its radius proportional to n square for hydrogen atom. The principal quantum number takes whole number values, means from 1 to up to infinite. Then orbital quantum number, or we can say azimuthal quantum number. So this orbital or azimuthal quantum number is what? It represents the number of subcells present in main cell. So it's simply, so we talked about principal quantum number which gives information of whole cell. Now if we talk about orbital, then it gives the information of subcells present in the main cell. So here L, the orbital angular momentum of electron is given as L, capital L is equal to root of L into L plus 1. So here L is orbital quantum number. Magnetic quantum number. So magnetic quantum number is an electron, due to its angular motion around the nuclei, it generates an electric field. This electric field is expected to produce a magnetic field. Under the influence of external magnetic field, the electrons of a subcell can orient themselves in certain pre-filled regions of space around the nuclei called orbits. The magnetic quantum number determines the number of pre-filled orientation. So magnetic quantum number gives pre-filled orientation of electron present in a subcell. The angular momentum quantum number can assume all integral values from minus L to plus L including 0. Thus m1 can be minus 1, 0, plus 1 for L is equal to 1. Then spin quantum number. So an electron in atom not only revolves around the nuclei but also spins about its own axis. So it is known as spin quantum number. It is 1 by 2, or we can say minus 1 by 2. So if it spins up, then it is 1 by 2, and if it is speed down, then it is minus 1 by 2. This quantum number helps to explain the magnetic properties of substance. So spin quantum number basically explains magnetic properties of substance. Then electronic configuration of atoms. So the distribution of electrons in different orbits of an atom is called electronic configuration. The filling of electrons in orbits is governed by following rules. So these are based on chemistry. So you will study these all effects in chemistry in detail. So Pauli's exclusion rule, Aufbau principle, Hund's principle, Hund's rule, and all these things. So students, this is it from this chapter. Let us have a pattern of numericals based on it. The ratio of areas within the electron orbits for the first excited state to ground state for hydrogen atom. So here we have to give ratio for areas. So we know that R proportional to N square. For hydrogen atom, R proportional to N square. So if we talk about area, then A is equal to pi R square. So we can say that area is proportional to R square. So and R is proportional to N square. So we can say that area is proportional to N to the power 4. So A1 upon A2 is equal to N1 to the power 4 upon N to the power 4. So you can easily calculate now from first excited state to ground state. It means first excited state means N is equal to 2. So N1 is equal to 2 and N2 is equal to 1. So it is 2 to the power 4 means 16 raised to 1. So any option having this value will be correct one. Then the innermost orbit of hydrogen atom has a diameter of 1.06 angstrom. The diameter of 10th orbit, so again it can be calculated by using the relation R proportional to N square. Then energy of electron in nth orbit of hydrogen is given by minus 13.6 upon N square electron volt. The amount of energy needed to transfer electron from first orbit to third orbit. So from first orbit it is minus 13.6, in third orbit it is minus 1.51. So required energy is E3 minus E1. So E3 minus E1 can be calculated easily. So it is almost equal to 12.09 electron volt. Then binding energy of electron in a hydrogen atom is 13.6 electron volt. The energy required to remove the electron from first excited state of Li++. So here for lithium Z is equal to 3. For lithium Z is equal to 3. We know the relation En is equal to minus 13.6 into Z square upon N square electron volt. So for third orbit we can easily calculate it is minus 30.06 electron volt. hence required energy is 30.06. Now see next question. The ratio of wavelength for second to first, from second orbit to first orbit transition in Li plus plus He plus and H. So again we can easily calculate that 1 upon lambda is proportional to Z square. 1 upon lambda is proportional to Z square. So for lithium it is 3, for helium it is 2, and for hydrogen it is 1. So it is 1 upon 9 raised to 1 upon 4 raised to 1. So we can take easily its LCM, it is 4 raised to 9 raised to 36. So option number C is correct. So these are some pattern of questions based on atomic theory. So these are some easy pattern of questions. Students, you can practice some more pattern of questions. If you have any query regarding any question, then you can easily reach us so that we can help you. So thank you for watching the video. We will meet in next video with our new topic. So thank you students for watching the video. Thank you.